In this video, we will talk about writing a point that is given in Cartesian coordinates and polar coordinates. We have the point 5 times the square root of 3, comma, -5 in Cartesian coordinates, and our goal is to find polar coordinates to represent the same point. We know that in Cartesian coordinates, 5 square root 3 is the x value and -5 is the y value. We also know that x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So that tells us that 5 times the square root 3 squared plus -5 squared equals r squared. Squaring, we get 25 times 3 plus 25 equals r squared, or 100 equals r squared. This means that r is equal to 10, or r is equal to -10. At this point, we know possible values for r. Now we need to work on theta. So we know that tangent of theta equals y divided by x. Well, that tells us that tangent theta for this point is equal to -5 divided by 5 times the square root of 3. Or in other words, tangent of theta is equal to -1 divided by the square root of 3. We know that tangent is negative for angles in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. So we have this angle in quadrant 2 where the tangent is -1 divided by the square root of 3. So theta here is 5 pi divided by 6, or any coterminal angle. So it could also be 17 pi divided by 6, or 29 pi divided by 6, and so on. The angle in the fourth quadrant that has tangent equal to -1 divided by the square root of 3 is negative pi divided by 6, or 11 pi divided by 6, or 23 pi divided by 6, and so on. So now the question is, how do we take our possible values for r and our possible values for theta and put them together accurately? So we need to go back to our Cartesian coordinates and recognize that this point is in quadrant 4. So for these quadrant 4 angles, our radius must be positive. So some representations using a radius of +10 are +10, comma, -π/6, or 10, comma, 11 pi/6, or 10, comma, 23 pi/6. And of course, we could keep going using any coterminal angle in place of -π/6. For these angles, whose terminal side is in quadrant 2, we will use the r value -10. The idea here is that our angle lands in quadrant 2, but then instead of starting at the pole and going forward, we start at the pole and go backward instead, which lands us ultimately in quadrant 4. So we have r comma theta being -10, comma, 5 pi/6, or -10, comma, 17 pi/6, or -10, comma, 29 pi/6, and so on. Again, we can replace the 5 pi/6 by any angle that is coterminal with 5 pi/6.